All right, welcome back. Joining me right now is my guest, Chike Nwangwu. We'll be looking at the business of betting in Nigeria. In fact, the betting and the gaming industry in Nigeria, which is rising and rising. Dr. Chike Nwangwu is my guest. He is the Chief Executive Officer at NOIPolls. Welcome to the show and thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, let me allow you to speak on betting and gaming in Nigeria. It's, it's quite high. Do you bet?
Personally, I don't actually. I mean, officially, I play the once in a while friendly games with friends, but as in betting online, no, I don't.
Because, from your research, I think I saw that 4 in 10 Nigerians engage in betting. Yeah. I'm not one of them. I don't bet. In case those of you that want to know if Nancy bets or involved in any gaming thing, no, I don't. So just give me a brief overview of what this betting is becoming, or the gaming industry in Nigeria.
Well, as in recent years, the prevalence of betting has increased. This was what motivated us to kind of find a lot of assumptions have been made, numbers coming out. So I kind of felt it was time that we do some kind of research to give numbers to these discussions, so that people know exactly what Nigerians think about it, how many Nigerians are involved in betting, and most of our findings corroborate what numbers have been coming out from the industry. We found, like you've mentioned earlier, about 77% prevalence. 77% of Nigerians think that betting is prevalent in Nigeria. But when you now go into actual incidents, which the question we asked there was, do you bet or do you know a family member that bets? And we had about 36% of Nigerians who bet or who know someone that bets, and that kind of makes it, like you said, about 4 in every 10 Nigerians bet. I'm looking at the numbers a bit more, because of course what we do also try to look at the demographics, and you find out that betting was more prevalent in the south west at 92%, whereas it was lowest in the northwest with 57%. And again, if you look at when we come to the incidents, you find out that men bet more than women. With I think for men we had about 42%, whereas for females we had about just 23%. Again, age distribution, betting is more common amongst the younger folks between 18 and 35 years, while those above 60, only about 10% of them are involved in betting.
So let's begin to interrogate one by one your findings, because it's very interesting that a lot of Nigerians still engage, or we're seeing an advancement of betting. In the country. So let's interrogate further. Why do we have people in the southwest betting more than those? Let me say the south. Okay. Than those betting in the north, because 92% in the southwest. That's your data. South 91%. That's the geopolitical zones recorded the highest prevalence, while we had lower prevalence in the north. Why are people betting more in the south than in the north?
That's a tough question to answer, and I'm speaking strictly on my own personal opinion. So I think there are still a lot of thoughts or cultural, as in interpretations of what betting mean. In some of the clips we watched earlier, somebody had mentioned that it was biblical not to bet. But I think from our polls, for example, the major reason why people said the bet is a quick way to make money, and what they call it. What was the other option again? Unemployment, as well as greed. Again, I'm saying this very loosely because it's a question of how do people decide to go about making money. And I think there's a clear difference between the north and the south in terms of what people are willing to do to make money, and maybe this is why it reflects that way.
That's a serious issue, And from your findings, about 60 million Nigerians between the ages of 18 to 40 spend billions of naira on sports betting daily, with an average investment of 3,000 naira per day. Why are you saying that age distribution was responsible for that?
So I think, well, because of the means of betting, so there's a lot of technology involved in betting now. You can bet online, you can bet with an agent, and because these are sports betting, so I think our youth are very, very sports inclined, so it's easier for them to understand the odds and be able to now take a decision. As well, I think the minimum amount is also reachable. So it's easy for people to commit to that. One of the discussions we had around this was that a lot of respondents kind of mentioned that rather than going to a place to go, and I think one of the people also said it, that rather than going to a place to sit down, drink, and watch the football, I'd rather use that money and bet and see if I'm going to get some kind of returns from it. So I think it's the ease with which technology has advanced. That's kind of maybe what's driving the younger generation to do that. And maybe there isn't a lot of, I don't want to use the word taboo, but there isn't a lot of taboo as in against betting. So people are easy to just, and people can justify it in whichever way they want. So someone can either say, rather than waste the money, maybe I could just try my luck and see if I'm going to get any return on investment.
But the age brackets over 60 or around 60 still go with the old pool. I know in Lagos, the Babi Jebus and all of that. Is it also a function of technology that age bracket is not, they are not really technology inclined, so they still go with the same old that they are so used to? And is that still on, as in still very much on, despite technological advances that we've seen around betting?
So pool is still very much on. Maybe not as popular because it was never an online. It wasn't an online platform. It was always a kiosk or small kiosk
and
to do that.
Old men, fairly old men around.
And you know, most people do it as a means to pass time. I want to believe, I doubt that people used to do it then as a means of becoming a millionaire overnight. So you find that some of them quite, as in at the end of the day, just go to the kiosk and
I think they have it in mind that they could become millionaire overnight. And there was also a taboo. I don't know if it's still existing. There was also a taboo then that any man that plays pool or anyone that
is an irresponsible
is an irresponsible man. So I don't know if that is still on now.
So I think it's still on. Particularly, and I think I want to make this distinction. I think there's people kind of want to differentiate between pool and betting. You know, as in it seems as if pool is the typical try your luck, but there is some sort of technology or some sort of thinking around betting, online betting, that kind of maybe dumbs down on the stigma around betting. But I think...
But are they the same? Are they the same try your luck kind of thing?
In my opinion, they are the same.
They are the same. It's just that it's taking...
different packaging, use that word. But they are the
Modern
same.
technology has made it
easier.
So it's like try your luck kind of thing.
Yeah, it is still try your luck, because if you actually looking further at a poll, you'll find out that the rate of winning is still very, very low. As it only you have about 8% of people that have never won anything, but they still keep on doing that. So it's still the same try your luck. That's in my own opinion. Yeah. Now
the gender distribution.
Yes.
Very interesting for me. So your report tells us that a lot of men or males bet more than women. Why is it?
About twice.
Women folk. Why? Well, we don't like to take risks, or what?
Oh, maybe. As in my own opinion, I think it's two things probably. One, women are less, are more risk averse than men, and then secondly, the taboo, the stigma that comes around betting would seem to carry a lot more weight on women. So maybe that's why. And you also have to understand, apart from the online bettings, as in places where these bets are placed are not necessarily women-friendly. So it will take someone who's really into betting to actually go out and do that. So maybe if the platform design more. I'm sure if we had gone into fine details to find out from the women that say that they bet which platforms that they do, I want to believe that we'll find out that most of them are more comfortable doing the online betting because there's some little bit of anonymity around it. But for as in the retail shops and the kiosks where they do that, I want to believe it's more men that go there. So I think men bet more than women because maybe women are more risk averse. The stigma around betting, it's not air friendly to women, and then the ease with which to go about it might be more difficult for them.
That stigma is still existing?
Not as it was before, in my own opinion. Not as it was before. Just generally because it's easier to do. That. There is a platform that you can do that from the comforts of your home. Online, yeah, you can do the betting online. So that you can do that from the comfort of your home. So it's really not a lot of people now identify that man that always spends all his money on at the pool. You know, so. Yeah, so maybe it's been decreasing a bit. At the same time, I don't think we've gotten to the stage where people come out and say, yes, I bet, you know. As in, there's still some level of, hush-hush on it anyway, but...
From your findings, do you, those that bet, have they been winnings, significant winnings compared to the rise of betting in Nigeria? Because you see a lot of people like what like they tell me, they bet like 100 naira or 200 naira and all of that. Have they been significant winners? And you see that people just go on spending like 1,000, 2,000 or 3,000 every week on bettings, yet some of them have not gotten back winnings.
So we have, as in, we didn't ask for any huge significant winning, but we haven't heard of any, like, you know, like
the US.
Where you heard the US lottery winners.
Yes.
Yeah, so
and they go masked. A lot of the winners in the US just mask their face.
Why?
Yes, they don't want.
But we haven't heard of that in Nigeria. But what we tried to find out was we wanted to look at the frequency with which people bet. So we have about 53% of people bet on a daily basis, which is very significant. Then the remaining 39% bet a few times a week. So all in all, we have about 93% of people that bet within the week. When you now compare this to rates of winning, only about 3% of people win on a daily basis, and then 60% claim they win a few times a week. But we have like about 8% that have never won anything. So we haven't had those, and this also begs to ask a further question: why is the rate growing up when we haven't had people?
That's the next question. Why is it now very lucrative, so to speak? So is it that betting companies are making a lot of money at the expense of Nigerians? I know that some betting companies listening now won't be liking me right now, but I've got to ask the real and the fundamental questions, you know. I want those betting companies to even come on board. Come and tell me how far, you know. Yeah. So is it that those betting companies are the ones taking all this monies?
So if you go back to the PwC report, as in when you're talking about 60 billion as in naira, that's a huge amount of money, and we haven't had somebody come out and say, I've won 1 million or 5 million or 10 million naira. So the money has to be going
or is
somewhere.
It that they are winning, the Nigerians are also keeping hush-hush? Because there is this culture around, I win the money, but let me not talk, so that all my family members will not come after me and tell me, let me give them slice of the money. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, because there was a time I heard someone won one of these, I don't know, one of these bettings, or was it lottery? Yeah. And the person just left the shores of the country.
So there was a show, the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, that the person won, not the big one. I know a personal friend who won so I think he won about $1 million from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and was out of the country the very next week. And his reason then was because it was televised, so everybody saw that. So he didn't even waste time. Unfortunately, that we don't have that much information on how do they publicize people that win, and I think there should be a protection of. I mean, it's up to the winner on how he to be yeah. So that counts. But the point I think is people bet. The amount is small. So maybe the winnings might also be small. And you get some kind of little justifications from, oh, I bet 100 naira, I won 300 naira. And that kind of keeps you going. But my take on this is, if we go with the PwC numbers, we're talking of 60 billion naira that is going somewhere. And we don't know where it is going. So maybe they can tell us.
Is there any economic benefit of this betting to the country, really? You know, like you see some other countries, like, I don't want to say US again, you know, but some other countries, I think gaming and even betting is more in South Africa, I think, and Kenya than in Nigeria. But are there some kind of economic benefits?
There's a huge industry around betting and gaming. So without doubt, there is a potential benefit to Nigeria as a whole if the industry becomes bigger than it is. It's a good thing that it's well regulated by the NLRC. There is an economic benefit to that, because in terms of, if you have these agencies, you can create jobs, as in you can create alternative means of income for people. There are agents that can get commissions. So yeah, so there is some economic benefit. But the thing, the point is, it's really about money circulating around. And if I want to, I'm a doctor, by the way, so sometimes I look at things from the health benefit. So if betting was going to stop people from drinking and smoking, maybe a different way to channel the money, as in maybe there's a benefit to that. Yeah.
Since you're a medical doctor, I'm also in the medical line too. So let's take it medical a bit. Wouldn't there be a gaming disorder? You understand what I mean?
No, I know.
Since you want us to go medical.
So I said that very, as in with
you understand?
Yeah, I agree.
Could also be a disorder associated
there is a lot of, there are also huge disadvantages with betting, because there is addiction, and people can go into depression from losing or from not winning. And then, of course, you have a lot of vices that come with it, as in you have people that can bet their whole income, as in, like, I don't know if there's any possibility of regulating how much people can bet, but I was just looking at this from a very single lens of, if people are saying rather than drinking, but we all know that is wishful thinking anyway, from my own point, because you find out that most people still drink and still bet. Yeah, so.
In fact, they could even be drinking
and betting at the
betting areas and watching those football matches, or what have you. Are you of the view, though you said it, are you really of the view that the industry is well regulated by the Lottery Commission?
That's a tough question. Yeah, that's a tough question. I think they are regulated as much as they can. There could be a lot more that could be done in terms of transparency, and in terms of really in terms of transparency and accountability of the industries. The point it's a fine line between how transparent can a betting company be about its methods versus its processes, without disclosing ways for people to game the system. But I wouldn't really take a stand. I think they're doing as much as they can. That's my own opinion.
I know sometimes in April, FIRS did say that it has plans to automate VAT collection from the lottery and from the betting companies. Some of them did not like it, though the FIRS said, or the FIRS chair did say that it's in the law that there must be 5% VAT on every transaction. So if you're betting 100 naira, you should be ready to bet 105 naira. Some of the key stakeholders from the betting companies, they say, oh no, it's going to chase their customers and all of that. And the FIRS chair was of the view, 5 naira or so will not make, or whatever it is, the 5% will not chase them away. Moreover, it's in the law. Do you think that's...
Well, I mean, I stand with the FIRS person, with the FIRS chair. I think it's in the law. So it's left for you to regulate how you price your winnings or your returns of winnings. Again, speaking to developed countries where lottery is a big thing, I'm not exactly sure, but I've heard even if you win... when you win $1 million, for example, you don't get paid $1 million.
Yes,
that is taxed as well. So I think the FIRS they're right in their assertion that it has to be taxed. And in as much, because we can't run away from what the law stipulates. So it's up to the NLRC and the betting companies to decide how they want to go about that.
So there's a rising trend of gambling and betting in Nigeria, according to your report. How about those that say that they go into betting because they are unemployed?
Well, everybody has a reason why they go into betting.
Because from your results, final analysis, quest for quick money 30%, unemployment 21%, greed 15%. So let me just start with the unemployment part, 21%. How can an unemployed person have so much money to bet every week? I'm just asking.
Well, you know, as in like the idea around betting is that you're going to win something in return. So it's the way I look at it is that the unemployed person is really trying to raise money for whatever thing they want to do. I don't think an unemployed person is looking at betting as an employment, but as a means of generating money for whatever he wants to do. So in a bit, they can be justified in why they go into betting, if the idea is just to raise some money. But of course, that has a huge downside in the sense that he doesn't have a regular source of income, and it might not be able to sustain this going forward.
Betting.
Yeah.
Because what are the odds of you winning?
That's
you continue to put in 200, 300, 500 now, whatever amount they use, and I think you are just betting on hope.
It is hope. It's hope and
Is
luck.
it hope?
Yeah, it's hope and luck. I used to feel that one of the best ways to look at it is you bet 100 naira every day of the week. That's 700 naira. And at the end of Sunday, you win 500 naira. As you basically haven't won. You've lost 200 naira, but people interpret it different ways. But I can understand why someone that is unemployed can decide to try his luck on that.
So unemployment. How about greed? The greed part.
You know, it's there are a lot of things that come with winning. Apart from just the money, there's the elation, there's the satisfaction that come from it, and those kind of feelings make people want to do more. So in terms of, greed is it's very prevalent when it comes to betting, because you hardly find people that will be like, okay, I'm going to do this once I win one time, I'm just going to go off. People like to believe that their luck has arrived, and then they'll keep on going at it. And I think that's one of the things that help the betting companies, because they are almost certain that winners will come back and put back into the system.
You know, I can also relate this to the rise of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria. You know, I also spoke about Ponzi scheme just a few days ago, and in fact, one of the reasons that we found out why Ponzi schemes are rising in Nigeria is greed.
True.
Not just that of ignorance, because you see that a lot of educated people fall prey to Ponzi schemes because of greed. They feel, let me just put in now, I can, you know. Yeah, so it's also here too, greed.
So
what is this thing about Nigerians and money?
There's a saying someone has said that Nigerians are very optimistic people and very hopeful people. So with regards to the Ponzi scheme, despite the loss, you actually, I won't be surprised to see someone that lost during one Ponzi scheme engaging in the very next
I did the
Ponzi
analysis. The MMM crashed. I heard that another MMM 2.0 is out. A lot of Nigerians have
jumped on it. Yeah,
jumped on it. And,
it's that glimmer of hope that maybe this time I might be among the lucky few. And that is always going to be a factor in everything that we do. I think because and this is one point that I do hope I can make on this is, Nigerians will bet. Nigerians will always try their luck. And if it's left for us to find what's the best alternative. Ponzi schemes are going to keep on coming. They are poorly regulated, as in when the losses come, they're very catastrophic. So maybe these betting platforms might be an alternative for people to do that, roll a dice and see whether my future is going to get better. Because if we clamp down, for example, on betting companies, what we're just going to do is to encourage Ponzi schemes to mop up or what people could have done into the betting platforms.
Let's take a look at the other revelations that you did also talk about. Other reasons include to cushion the effect of the economic hardship. And that was quite interesting because some people may say, I'm greedy or I'm being pushed to do these things because the state is not taking care of some of the things that they need to take care of.
True.
The economy is not doing well. So anywhere I can get something, any which way in a way, like they say, you know.
So it's a vicious cycle, right? The economy is not doing well. And when the economy is not doing well, prices of commodities are going to rise, and then people don't have the wherewithal to be able to purchase that. So you have a lot more, that means the word desperate people that want to do anything it is to make ends meet. So I actually, it's a good point you raised because we had a hard time trying to interpret what we consider as greed and what we consider as just being able to make ends meet. As in, for things have been tough for the past couple of years, and people are being pushed to do whatever they can to make ends meet. And I think that's maybe that's why the Ponzi schemes thrive. If people were, because basic needs are still not yet met in Nigeria, so people would do whatever they have to do to make ends meet.
So should we also put in poverty with this analysis?
Yes, they're the same.
They're the same.
Yeah.
How about those that just do it just for fun? 5%, just for fun.
Yep, there are those people. There are those people.
Just for fun.
Just for fun, yeah. You could, I mean, if you go back to growing up, as in, I don't think betting is any different from, I don't know if you know the bazaar sales that happens in Catholic churches where you try your luck. I mean, for 5 naira you can get a bucket, you know. I think that is still betting if you want to look at it that way. But I think you do that for fun. You get excited that you win, and it ends there. So there are people that actually do that. Like I said, we've had a group of friends come together, play cards, and just put some bits of money on top of it. And so people do it for fun. Yeah. For fun.
Peer group influence, 2%. Is it also the fun part of it, or because your friends or family members are playing it, and perhaps you've seen 1 or 2 people win it? I'm like, okay. If Chigozie made it, or Henry did it, or, you know, Bashiru did it, not maybe. Now of the so much north, because according to the report, they don't play as much in the south. Then I will do it and see what the odds are. Peer group influence.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah.
Passion for sports, 5% from your results.
Yeah.
I have passion for sports. I love sports a lot, but I don't bet. So perhaps I'm part of the 95% here.
Maybe you are, but there's a huge set of people that say put your money where your mouth is. Yeah. So people, as in like, to stake your support for the club, just I bet this amount of money. I know there are, as in like what's the Nations Cup that just that was just concluded, AFCON that was concluded. I know quite enough people that bet, maybe not on the betting platforms, but winning groups just do that. So people do that out of support of their clubs of interest. Yes.
Okay, so just as we've come to the end of the program, what's your closing remark? Because I know that you put here in conclusion what NOIPolls think, but just give me your concluding remarks regarding what the conclusions are.
So from our findings, betting and gaming is on the rise in Nigeria, and people are going to keep on. I'm going to use the word try their luck, and then I think that's what really it is. And I think we need to call for stronger regulations, have more transparency and accountability from the platforms, and then find means to regulate how people go about betting. Because the point that one point I want to take is that it's here and it's here to stay, so we can't ignore it. but we have to like have very clear, transparent ways to regulate how these things go about, because it's an industry that has a lot of advantages, but equally has a lot of disadvantages, and we need to be mindful of those. And I think that the more you keep things away, the more the disadvantages flourish. So maybe having a very clear, transparent regulation on this platform might be a best way to kind of go about it.
Okay, I think we'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being on the show
Thank
today.
you, Nancy.
All right, I've been speaking with Dr. Chike Nwangwu, who is the Chief Executive Officer at NOIPolls. We've been looking at the rising trend of betting and gaming in Nigeria. Over 60 million Nigerians bet daily. That's huge. That's like 2 countries or 3 countries in Africa. All right, that's the much we can take. Many thanks for joining me today. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Bye now.